Today I was thinking about habit versus need. And again, it's just all linked to my own experiences and how I see them playing out. And if it was interesting for me, then I guess it will be interesting and useful to someone else, perhaps. So I'm sharing it. Some funny little thing happened last week or the week before. On 3 separate occasions, I'd had some food left over from the dinner that I'd made the day before, and I'd put the leftovers in the fridge, and I was going to eat that for my dinner and make a separate meal for my kids. And on each of those 3 occasions, somebody had eaten my food. So the first time it happened, I was like, okay, it happens. Not the end of the world, but I can't remember if I even mentioned it or not, but if I did, it was literally just in passing. Did anyone eat, the leftovers? Just to make sure that it wasn't somewhere else, because it can do in a busy house. It might have just been put somewhere else. Anyway, so that was that. Then the second time, which was a couple of days later, I was like, okay, this has happened again. What am I being shown? There's always a reason for everything, a bigger reason. Everything that comes into our awareness in our day, in our daily life, any experience, anything that draws our attention, there's always a reason. It's a hidden meaning. It's interesting to me. Once you see life like this, it unfolds very beautifully, and also give you the clues to living your life in a way with more ease, going with the flow, rather than resisting it and clinging desperately on to the edge while you're trying to be taken in another direction that's actually going to be better for you. Anyway, I digress. So the second time it happened, I was like, okay, this is a message from the universe. I remember a long time ago someone saying to me, if something gets your awareness the first time, you could kind of pass it off as coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences, by the way, but anyway, you could pass it off as, oh, that happened. Okay, fine. The second time it happens, you clock it, right? And okay, that's interesting. If it happens a third time, it's definitely for you. So pay attention and listen up. Whatever it is. So with that in mind, which is in the back of my mind in general now, it's part of my data set. So the second time it happened, I was aware and conscious that this was getting my attention for a reason. What was it? But I couldn't work it out. I was really just could not work out what the deal was. Was I being shown something karmic? I never ate other people's food, even when I was at uni and we had to write our names on things in the communal fridge. I wasn't ever one of the ones who was eating other people's food. I never eat the last of anything. I'm always conscious of offering it and checking whether anyone else would like it before I have it, which isn't also necessarily the best thing, but I do it, not out of martyrdom, but just because. So I just couldn't pin it down. I thought it's got to be a wider meaning. I wasn't quite sure what it was. So I just kind of let it rumble away in the back of my mind, but I did mention it to my kids that time. Again, I wasn't bothered, but it was just like, anyone eating that? It was going to be my dinner. And one of my kids was like, oh no, I'm really sorry, and started feeling bad about it. I was like, no, please don't feel bad about it. It's okay. It's just weird. It's the second time it's happened. Never has this happened before. Anyway, so we move on. Anyway, then it happened a third time a few days later. And for whatever reason, on this particular day, it actually bugged me. I got irritated, actually annoyed by it. I seem to remember, I called up. I was like, for goodness sakes, the third time. Why are you guys eating my food? And they were all like, "I'm really sorry, Mum." "Oh no, I'm really sorry. It's fine. It's fine. I'm aware I'm reacting this way. I find it interesting observing myself in these situations now. You know, if something bugs us, if something triggers us, if something raises a negative response, that is something to pay attention to, because actually whatever happens in your life, in my life, I don't want to be reacting from a negative place at all. And people around me don't deserve to be on the receiving end of my negative response. There's always a way to deal with something, right, without lashing out or being quick to anger. I want to find that way for myself. And the easiest way to do that is by observing how I'm responding. I don't always nail it, but it's definitely a better way to be living. And nicer for everybody else around me too. Anyway, so this third time, I was like, come on, man. What's going on? What am I being shown? What am I being told? I don't get it. Can I have a sign that's clearer, please? So alongside this, I also realised it was during a week that I wasn't actually feeling particularly hungry. My appetite has changed a lot as well over the past, few years. My appetite has changed a lot. Sometimes I've noticed I've fallen into a pattern of intermittent fasting where I'll eat something, early evening, and then I won't eat again. And the next morning it's not deliberately, not a conscious decision, but I haven't been hungry and I've been getting on with stuff and noticing then that perhaps I might eat something at 2 or 3 o'clock. And I tend to be a creature of habit as well. And I'll suddenly be like, oh, I haven't had my whatever. And I became then aware of intermittent fasting and the patterns. I thought, that's really good, actually. I'm doing good for my body without even, deliberately deciding to. So I was pretty happy with that. My body shape doesn't seem to have changed much. And I really enjoy my food. I enjoy good food and nourishing my body with good things. But I'm just not really sure what I like to eat. I want good, fresh, live. I'm not talking about meat. I've gone off meat, actually. But anyway, I'm really going off on a tangent here. But the point was, around this week, sometimes I'm really hungry. Sometimes I'm just not hungry at all. But there'll be one thing I really want to eat. Like, for instance, at the moment, it's peanut butter on toast. I've always had a bit of a love-hate relationship with peanut butter, but for some reason I want it every day right now. Prior to that, it was Greek yogurt with honey and fruits and granola. Anyway, it's always quite interesting to look into the benefits of whatever your food you're desiring, because there's something in there that your body wants, and you just go with it. So, this period of time where people were eating my food and eating the food that I'd set aside for myself. So it was a bit of an affront as well, boundary pushing. And me establishing and maintaining healthy ones in a way that brings me peace, because that's what it's all about, right? How to feel at peace with whatever's crossing your path at the time, because that's out of our control. So I was not really knowing what I wanted to eat. So I just didn't want to waste anything. That's why I was putting leftovers to one side. I thought, well, I'll eat that tomorrow. But I wasn't actually very hungry. And in looking back, I can acknowledge I was just eating. It was more out of habit, I guess, as well as not wanting to waste. But it was out of habit. I was like, oh, I haven't had anything. I haven't eaten. I will eat dinner. I'll eat that. And so when that wasn't there, I just found something else. So it wasn't of any particular nutritional value. I think I'd run out of fruit. I might have just had a piece of bread and jam or something. So that was a funny week. It moved on. No one was eating my food. No one was eating leftovers. People, in fact, were a bit like, can I just check before I eat this, Mum? Is it all right? And I'm like, oh, no. we've now got a situation where everyone's on tenterhooks about what they can eat. So I knocked that all on the head. I was like, look, it's fine. Please don't worry about it. It was something for me. You just guys, as you were, stand down. Anyway, today when I sat down, and it's a bit of a funny day. It's been, I feel like being introspective. So I sat down, picked up my Bible this morning and asked it for some information that would be for my highest good, as I always do. And I opened it on Isaiah 58. The title is Fasting That Pleases God. I was like, straight away, I thought back to what happened the other week with the food in the house and the food that I was going to eat being not available. But I still persisted. Well, I didn't actually feel that great, didn't particularly enjoy what I was eating. I was distant from being aware and in the moment. I was still looking at it as what's it showing me, but I was looking at it from a distance, I realised. Rather than just realising, oh, someone's eaten my food, it doesn't matter, I'm not hungry, cool. And that was it. However, now I've got some hindsight and some distance from it, and then I open my Bible and this is what it gives me. I just thought, wow, that's amazing. So I will read it. Rather than reading it and interjecting, I'm going to read the whole thing. See if you can have the same perspective that I had. You don't have to. I just found it really interesting. Right. Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Tell my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness, and it did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching God. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen? Why have we afflicted our souls, and you take no notice? In fact, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure and exploit all your labourers. Indeed, you fast for strife and debate, and to strike with the fist of wickedness. You will not fast as you do this day, to make your voice heard on high. Is it a fast that I have chosen? A day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head like a bulrush, and to spread out sackcloth and ashes? Would you call this a fast, and an acceptable day to the Lord? Is this not the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out? When you see the naked, that you cover him, and not hide yourself from your own flesh. Then your light shall break forth like the morning, your healing shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry, and he will say, Here I am. If you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and speaking wickedness, if you extend your soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then your light shall dawn in the darkness, and your darkness shall be as the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your soul in drought and strengthen your bones. You shall be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. Those from among you shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to dwell in. So just a little couple of points that seemed of relevance to me and my story that I told you before reading this, and my interest in how the Bible depicts the way. That is what it is for me, the way to live. And it's not that I then pick up the Bible and think, oh my gosh, I did it all wrong. How terrible. I shall go and beat myself with twigs. It's not about that. It's about kind of, well, a future-proving past. It's hindsight, which is something we all know about. You're able to look back on a situation, understand why it played out the way it did, and see that it actually all worked out for the best. And that's fine. So for me, in this moment, what's happened is I have found another parallel, which I love, that kind of depicts how things play out naturally without even trying, and therefore all we need to do is be, and try and be with grace, because let's see, when you decide to fast, which isn't something I've ever decided to do, I've naturally, as I mentioned, just intermittent fasting, not huge, dedicated periods of time, although maybe I'm being drawn along that way, because of the story I told you about my food not being there. Maybe that was then the day that God, inside me, my inner compass, my light, my connection to the divine, to source, which is where we are from, and there is no separation because we are the spiritual self having a physical experience. So my energy body expands outside of this physical body and connects with all the energy in the universe, and there is no separation. We are one. But I'm here having my experience and my journey of interest and revelation and enlightenment. And it's fun. Once you come out of the dark night of the soul, which just isn't fun at all, but reveals everything and prepares you for the journey ahead. Anyway, yes. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen? Why have we afflicted our souls and you take no notice? That's like the thankless child. You're going, but I did it then, and did you notice? Because I did that and I didn't see any benefit. And that's, for me, not only fasting, but with relevance to anything. If you do something because you feel you have to, because someone else is telling you, or you think that you should, these are all, it's not going with flow. It's not going with the natural form of life, the natural progression of the cycles of earth and nature and energy of which we are part. It's doing something at a time that you don't feel right. It's like if you feel under the weather, for me, you're being given an opportunity to be still, allowing it to be, so that it's a period of rest that is required. And probably if you looked into all the other aspects that aren't my area of expertise, like the cycles of the moon, which again are all linked to energy, those periods of time where fasting or being still or starting something new or being creative, actually, if you're going with the flow, you'll find that they all happen naturally anyway. And then if you look at the cycles of the moon, for instance, the stars and their position in the sky, it will all tie in with the energetic cycle that you are in, that we are in at any given time. So, yes, that for me is relevant and points to that. And then, is this not the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free. Nothing's wasted. And that's what's so amazing as well. So there are no mistakes, all is learning. So even on the days when you fast because you feel you have to, and I'm not just fast, we're using that as a mechanism for anything that you do because you feel you should or have to, which is not the right way. We must learn that to do things that please the self, and not from an egotistical point of view, but to do things that please the self, truly feeling the joy that comes from being happy and content, not at the expense of others. By being in that state, we spread that state because that's an energy, and we're the pebble that's dropped in at that frequency, and we spread that out, and therefore doing good to anyone else who is sharing our life in any particular moment while we're in that state. However, when you're doing it from the I should perspective, as I explained, it by the third time, it irritated me, and I was like, is this not the fast that I've chosen? To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to set the oppressed go free. If we look at that with respect to energy, that wasn't wasted. Doing something because you feel you should. God's perspective, that I am the source, the pure, the divine, whatever you wish to call it, it still has a purpose. So it was a trigger for me to get something out, to voice my irritation, to let go of something that was no longer serving me. And that's really wonderful and beautiful. And I didn't do it. It didn't, harm anyone else. I did it in observation of myself. And I felt at peace afterwards. I was pleased with how I carried myself to a degree. I was feeling ungracious, and so looking for an explanation. And I don't need one. I can just accept. We can just accept things are how they are, and that's fine. I don't need to find a chapter in the Bible to explain why a certain thing was, but I delight in it, and so it's nice for me. For other people, it'll be a different thing. And perhaps you don't need an explanation at all. It is a bit of a human response, liking a label or an explanation of something. But at times we don't need it. It can help. So it serves its purpose in as much as we want it to, or like it to, or enjoy it to. So yes, I saw that bit about loosing the bonds of wickedness and the heavy burdens. It was just allowing me a release of something. And that's what happens as well, along our life's journey. Anything that impacts us, mind, body or spirit, unless it's dealt with, if looked at, acknowledged, and it will get put away in a place within until we're ready to let it out or look at it, or that it's able to vent. So that was an opportunity that gave me something that was stuck to come out, and also learn, so that next time something like that comes around, not the specific event itself of someone eating my leftovers, not that, but something that has a parallel scenario, I'll be able to look at it in a different way. You can always do that. And also, yes, later on, if you take away the yoke from your midst, if you take away the burden of it, the pointing of the finger and the speaking wickedness, so like, did you do this? If I had been like that with my children, and actually cross with them for eating the food, and why did you do that? And the blame, actually, if you extend your soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then your light shall dawn in the darkness, your darkness shall be as the noonday. My kids were hungry. there was food for them that I prepared, and that's lovely. And so when you go without, it will be for a reason, and someone else will be benefiting, and that's good. So yeah, I just really love all the parallels, and it's wonderful, and I love it. And I sat down and I asked for something that would serve me for my highest good in this particular moment, and this was what I was brought. So I imagine that it will serve a higher purpose, and someone else, whoever you are, hello, who's come along and found this, there'll be something in it for you too. So that is wonderful. Full circle. Have a wonderful day, and God bless. Until next time.